we have to realize how fragile our democracy and our civilization is. I remember about 20 years ago, I did a trip. I was doing some work over in Beirut, in Lebanon, in Beirut, and the civil war was over, but you could still see a lot of the scars of the civil war were still there. The buildings that had been destroyed, and they were busily, working hard, the Lebanese people, at repairing the damage that been done to Beirut for the civil war. I remember on my last night, I went for a walk around there's a town square there, and there's a big clock tower. And there was a photographic exhibition. And it was a photograph of parts of Lebanon during the war, how they'd absolutely trashed and destroyed it and burned out buildings. And then they had the picture, either how they fixed it up or what it was like before. And you had these like beautiful arcades and beautiful like outdoor restaurants and coffee shops and promenades with flowers, and then you saw what they did to it during the war. And I was hypnotized by these photos, because for the first time in my life, it made me realize how fragile the life and the democracy that we have and the time we have, and how we've got to guard it and protect it and look after it and make sure we pass it down to future generations, and we don't just take it for granted like we've done. And that's what I see being lost so much in this is the total disrespect for people and common human rights that we have just being trashed for political reasons. And remember, now they say, oh, we are following the science and the evidence, and pardon the French, BS, absolute rubbish. There has been during this pandemic, none of these governments making these decisions have done a proper cost-benefit analysis. So when you're going to lock down your society, okay, what are the costs of the lockdown? What is the economic cost? What's the cost of mental health? How many small businesses will go broke? What will the cost of kids losing their education, 6 months or more of their education? What will the cost be? What will the cost be if people don't go and get their normal medical screenings that they do, and medical like where they diagnose? What's the cost of all that? Okay, and then weigh up what the benefits are. None of that's been done. There's been this single focus on how many COVID cases there were today. That's all we hear. We don't hear. They should stand up and they should say, oh, yesterday we had a record number of kids ring youth suicide line. And we spent another X billions of dollars that we borrowed will have to be paid back by future generations. Or we think that X number of women might have missed out on their breast screening tests. None of that is recorded. There is no proper analysis of the cost of these lockdowns. They say it's for the health, but it is not. It is all political.
Yeah, it's almost as though these Liberal and Labor politicians who are in power, they don't intend to be in power. That's why they're spending money like it's going out of fashion. That's why they're driving the economy into bankruptcy. They don't have any responsibility. It's almost as though there's something coming up and they know they're not going to be around. Gladys is not going to be around. David Elliott, police minister, he's not going to be around. He's not going to go for the next election. The people of Baulkham Hills will vote him out for sure. And the United Australia.
Just on that, remember the government said, oh, aren't we wonderful? We've given the people JobKeeper. Every single cent of that money for JobKeeper is borrowed money. It goes on to the national debt. So what it's like, there's no different to if you have your credit card and you've got 10 grand on your credit card and you've taken your credit card out to 100 grand. So what that's going to mean for decades to come, the biggest expenditure for government is not what we can spend on schools, or not what we can spend on kids with disabilities, or not what we can spend on our defence forces, or putting new drugs on the PBS so people can access. The biggest expense of government is the interest bill we're going to have.
So it's a very interesting point in terms of the interest bill and the economic future of this great nation. Australia obviously has major trading partners, and in the current climate, one of the obvious ways to get out of the debt hole that we've got ourselves into is to increase trade and look for new partners. Now, I'll give you a little disclaimer here. I'm saying this as a proud Australian. Yes, I'm of Russian heritage, but do you think it's about time we considered, removing sanctions against Russia and allowing our farmers to export beef to Russia, I mean, that's not going to be a strategic disaster. Allowing our miners to export uranium, for example, we made billions. Our country made billions of dollars, but for some reason, Australian foreign policy, and I think it needs an urgent review. We need to look at how we interact with other countries. We need to have a look at, shaping Australian interests only. And also another second part of the question, in regards to selling off of strategic assets to foreign powers. What do you think of that, Mr. Kelly?
Well, firstly, we need to be very careful. You cannot take your overseas markets for granted. And that's what we've done in so many circumstances. Now, let's take our coal export markets. We are very lucky at the moment that the only thing that's keeping the economy afloat is the very high prices for coal and iron ore. The last I looked at, coal was something like trading $150 a tonne. 12 months ago, it was trading at like $50 a tonne. So all that money comes into the country, which helps us pay for everything. Now, we just can't take these coal markets to Asia for granted because the Russians are coming for us. Russia is expanding their coal mining production. They're expanding their railways. They have their eyes set on our markets, and they are coming after our markets. So we've got to make sure that we not only go out looking for new markets, we've got to make sure we are protecting the markets that we already have, because other countries, especially Russia, are coming for them on the minerals front. Now, when it also with our trading policy, we need to make sure that everything we do is in the best interests of our nation. There are so many policies that I see where we're ceding the sovereignty of this nation to bureaucrats in Europe that are telling us what to do, how to run our economy, and what we should be doing. This has to stop. We don't know what the strategic alignments are going to be in the next 10, 20, 30 years, what we've got to look out for. We've seen, who knows what the growth of China, who knows where the Chinese are going to be in 10 or 20 years. But I'll tell you what, they're going to be a lot darn stronger than what they are today.
Well, they're probably watching us now. They're probably looking at what's happening in our country. They're looking at Gladys Berejiklian. They're looking at Dan Andrews. They're looking at how the Australian government is just destroying the will and the Australian way of life is being destroyed. That's the scariest thing, apart from all the economic destruction and the destruction to mental health and all the people being arrested and oppressed. It's the Australian spirit. But as we know, the Australian spirit will not be destroyed. The Australians out there are speaking up, getting off the couch, fighting back.
We've got a bit of work to do. We really have a bit of work to do. We've got to make sure that the politicians that have done this to us pay the price at the ballot box. That's absolutely essential. That's the one job that we have to do. After, if you've been a traditional Labor or Liberal voter, you've got to give them a flick at the next election and go back, if you want to go back the election after or whatever, if the other party's not doing a good job. But you cannot reward politicians that have inflicted this harm and this damage on our country.
Yeah, certainly. And just in closing, I just want to say thank you. It's been a great interview that we've had live here on the Aussie Cossack Channel. For all our viewers out there, thank you very much for joining us. We want to thank Member of Parliament Craig Kelly, leader of the United Australia Party, for having the courage to speak for the people and to speak on behalf of the people. We've got lots of comments here and thousands of people watching. If you're watching and you haven't done so yet, please join the United Australia Party. The link to joining the party is in the description. It's absolutely free. Doesn't cost you anything. If you join the Aussie Cossack Channel, it might cost you a few bucks, but that's the price of independent journalism. And I encourage everyone to join the channel. The Aussie Cossack Channel is obviously it's only been around for a month, really, and it's exploded. It's got almost 60,000 subscribers. It's growing by 10,000 subscribers a week. And we will continue. And I vow to all of our subscribers and viewers, we'll continue to bring you the truth. I hope that this isn't the first time Craig's on the show. We'd love to have you on again to get the real issues out there. And it's such a great thing that we can engage a member of parliament, a leader of Australia's biggest political party.
Almost there. We're almost there. A few more.
How many are we short, Craig?
Oh, I think I don't know the exact numbers today, but the Labor and Liberal Party have between something 50 and 60,000 members. So we've got that well within our sights. It would be an amazing achievement. We are the fastest growing political party in this country. We are going to give the next election a real shot. And we are well resourced. Right? We've got an enormous war chest that we're going to deploy across the length and breadth of this country, and we're going to stick it right up the major parties, right? Because they have let the nation down.
Excellent. So we've got a real chance here, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow Australians. We've got a real chance. We've got to pool our resources. We have to join the United Australia Party, support the candidates, and they'll be fielding a candidate in every single electorate at the upcoming election. In saying that, preferences and our support will also extend to One Nation, to GAP, to LDP, to all the micro and minor parties. Our main aim is Liberal and Labor, never again. Mr. Craig Kelly, thank you very much for standing up for Australian people, standing up for the Christians, the Muslims, the people of Western Sydney, the descendants of the Anzacs, and having the spirit of Ned Kelly, really, the rebellious spirit, and the Eureka flag, which is for our overseas viewers, that's the flag, of rebellion to the government, but in a very legal way. And in closing this interview, we'd just like to remind everybody out there, please don't consider any violence or any violence against police. Let the Australian people have the high moral ground and maintain honour. We do have an opportunity with the United Australia Party to make a political difference. I believe we can trust Craig Kelly. We can trust the candidates of the United Australia Party. They haven't sold out to the mainstream media. They haven't sold out. In my opinion, Craig Kelly is an independent. Simeon Boykoff, the Aussie Cossack, is an independent. It's just that we need to join together, united under the banner of the United Australia Party, because simply we won't have the resources otherwise. We will not be able to break the duopoly. Ladies and gentlemen, leave your comments. Make sure you subscribe and join the channel. A big shout out to everyone out there who's become a member today, a member of the United Australia Party and the Aussie Cossack Channel. We'll continue to bring you this news. Big thank you to Craig. If you just want to give a closing statement, and we'll end it there.
Thanks, Simeon. Look, thank you for the work that you do as well. The other thing that we're seeing in this country is appalling censorship from the mainstream media. Even the people we thought that were able to speak freely in the mainstream media are silenced. They are gagged. We are not getting the full story, and that's why you see people turning off the mainstream media all the time and coming to channels like yourself, where they're actually getting the truth and getting the facts and getting proper debate of what our country should be all about. So more strength to you, and onwards and upwards.
Good on you, Craig. God bless, and we'll keep fighting. We'll keep working on behalf of Australia and for Australia's future. God bless you, Craig.
Thanks, Simeon.
Thank you. All the best.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.